Leigh Chase, I'm the Competency Leader for Security Intelligence Operations Consulting for IBM Security in the UK and Ireland. So I started out running some technical services with a retail company, actually. I was then also a Crown Civil Servant for some time and just developed and honed my skills from there. On joining IBM, I've worked sort of in various areas, various industry segments in different roles and just developed really from a technical baseline. I am a techie, I'm an engineer, I'm a computer scientist, and really that's my background, that's where I came from. It's varied, which is one of the things I love about the job. I suspect this is something that people in the security sector all agree with, but in my role in the security intelligence space particularly, it's an area that's moving very quickly, so it's something that we're always developing new techniques, new capabilities, and that's something we have to keep apprised of in terms of what others are doing, but also where we've got new technologies that could be brought to bear. So it varies from customer engagements through to working internally with other IBM departments or colleagues, but also thinking about things, thinking about new ways of working and where we can be taking our particular capability portfolio. There are very few worst bits. I would say, in terms of worst is perhaps not the best term, but the parts which are hardest to keep up with is really the volume of information all the time. It's an industry sector that's moving so quickly, but it's also one that's important to a lot of people. And as a consequence of that, people have different views of what we mean by security, information security, assurance, cyber, all these things. So actually maintaining a consistent message, that's hard. And keeping your skills current as well requires a lot of personal investment as well as professional investment. So I would say it's more of a lifestyle choice really than just a career. But in terms of the positives, it's amongst the most rewarding areas of technology you can work in because you can define real solutions that make a real difference to real people. And that's not just in the technical sense, but it's in the very tangible sense, such that you can solve a problem for someone which otherwise would have been a real issue for them. And that might have an impact to people's well-being or to the security of their systems or those sorts of issues which are very rewarding to deal with. So it's a great place to be from the point of view of actually delivering things of value. Well, as a shameless plug to IBM, we do actually run a security intelligence blog, but I'm not here to promote that. But there are links from that. But people like SANS, for example, the SANS Institute, they have a reading room. There's a lot of very informative resources. But keeping apprised of the public press, one of the issues, of course, with that is that it tends to be quite spiky in terms of the information that's provided. However, there's lots of very credible sources. And people like the British Computing Society have special interest groups for this. ISACA, who specialise in information assurance and security risks. So there's a lot that people can do in terms of researching this in their own time, but also build the network, work with other people, work with professionals, speak to people who actually work in this sector because, as I mentioned, people have different ways of looking at these things, but it's important that you get a rounded and holistic view. One thing I would say about the security space is, perhaps slightly counterintuitively, it's amongst the most open I've come across in technology in terms of the willingness of people to share, particularly in penetration testing and the technical areas of what we do. People want to share and are enthusiastic about sharing and want to bring other people on. So there's a lot to learn out there, but there's a lot of credible sources from which to do that. I love what I do, and on a simple note, as long as people allow me to continue in embracing the techie, I think is probably the right way of putting it. I am a technical person. I love developing things. I still think for me, coding and producing new artifacts is amongst the most rewarding things you can do. So it's that balance between continuing to do that, but also helping and inspiring others to do that. For me, is a really key area, particularly if you are in a position where you're trying to run a team or you're trying to develop new capabilities. It's about helping people understand what it is you're working towards. So as my career develops, I suspect that thought leadership is not the right term, but help setting direction and also understanding where we can bring wider innovative technologies and what's happening next type views into the day-to-day for others. My advice to anybody entering the technology sector would be get content. And by that I mean that people are entering it every day. Yeah, and there are a huge number of graduates and apprentices coming through the systems, and there's a huge amount of talent out there. I'm consistently impressed at how innovative and how inquisitive these eager young minds are. But the way I would look to differentiate myself if I were doing it all again now would be, oh, I'm an expert in X. So yes, I've got this broad sense of knowledge, or I'm a software engineer, or I'm a computer scientist, and I look at these particular areas. But I would say, actually, I know everything there is to know about securing or hardening Linux boxes in this context, or I'm really good on application security, or I know all about risk assessment methodology. So just have something which allows you to differentiate yourself from others, but also something that tells people a bit about what interests you and what really gets you up in the morning.